latest edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans. Absolutely free. It is another bonus episode of the pod, guys. We're doing a preview show tonight for the Ross County game on Sunday. As I say to you every week, it's not just the podcast that we have here at Gersnet. Frankie's got the website. You'll find articles, match previews, match reports, that kind of stuff, opinion pieces, all that. He's obviously got the pod and there's a history archive on the website. So lots of stuff going on. Get yourself on there if you can. We actually ever put the word out there on social media, and subscribe to our YouTube channels as well. The pod is live tonight. It's a Friday night, but it'll be available to download and stream on a variety of tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all the usual places, guys, that you'll get your pods. And it's time to bring in my guest, and it's I think he's the only guy at Gersnet that's actually prepared to work with me anymore, because he's the only guy that comes on. No one else will work with me, Stuart. It's just you.
I'm only because I'm a qualified stuntman, and I've got an extremely good solicitor as well. She dropped me in it from a great height. But no, always a pleasure, Colin. Always a pleasure.
It's something to do on a Friday night, innit? Come on and talk some shite for 45 minutes. I've said that to annoy Frankie, because he's told me to keep it to half an hour the night. So we'll try and get 45 minutes at it. Aye. Well, that's 5 minutes already, so we'll be raging. Right, sure. I thought we would obviously look at the game last night, the European game last night. I'd go through that, and we'll look at the Ross County game on Sunday. But on to last night, straight away, 1-0 again. I mean, the way I sort of looked at it was I suppose you should be happy with the 1-0 result, but it just felt like of them we really should have. We should have. I think the feeling going into the game, we could have got 2-3 nothing out of that game. And don't get me wrong, 1-0 against 10 men, it's put us in a decent place moving forward. But yeah, the first half performance was poor. The scoreline's not really what we're looking for. It's hard to know whether it was a positive night or a negative night, if you know what I mean.
I think at 8 o'clock, if you said that Rangers were going to win 1-0, some people would have taken the victory, but I think you would have been disappointed at 1-0 at half time. And just into the second half, saying that Rangers were going to win the game 1-0 with 10 men. I think most people have settled for that and said, right, let's get it right in the second leg. The first half, there were too many players for my liking were there without actually contributing. They just seem to be posted missing. Now, whether that was a confidence thing, I don't know. Whether that's early season, rustiness. You can't be positive or say for definite. However, what I would say is, if Rangers won 1-0 last night, it was because 4 or 5 guys were exceptional and the rest filled spaces. That was the way I saw it. Everybody will have their own take on the game, and from my perspective, I thought Morelos took the chance that he got well, having missed a header that he should really have buried a few minutes before that. I thought Ryan Kent should have scored in the first half, and I thought that he slowed up. He did take a knock in the first half, and it slowed him down. Now, whether it was protectionism or whether he just didn't impress the manager, you can never be certain. But when Wright came on for the second half, I mean, there's a guy who you honestly have to think the way he's performed, as a substitute. If he gets a chance and an extended run in the team, he will be, he could be a player for Rangers this season. I thought Steve Davis, and I've noticed people being critical of Steve Davis. Quite frankly, I thought Steve Davis was outstanding, simply because he was carrying 2 guys round about him. I thought Aribo is a fantastic player, but he dwells too long on the ball. He loses possession far too easily and takes too long to make a pass. when he does play at a certain tempo, he is really effective. But I think he was just trying. He dawdled last night, and again that goes back to the start of the season, and again the lack of real cutting edge with one or two guys in terms of performance. And I don't know who was the man of the match, but for me, I think Bassey was again outstanding. It doesn't take long, he's not really the player that Barisic is, and then all of a sudden the guy gets a run of games, and you suddenly are wondering whether Barisic will see the light again. That's a guy that's really upped his game and turned in some performances, and I was well impressed with his overall contribution to the game last night.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think the main one we need to speak about in terms of performances, I think John Lundstram, and I think it goes deeper than last night. The Dunfermline game aside, he got his goal that night, and he looked a little bit sharper that night. But overall, I think he's struggled to live up to the sort of hype. He's come up here with a bit of a reputation. Played in the Premier League. That alone means he's commanding, a decent salary. And also, his experience. He's 27-year-old, so I was sort of getting involved in some chat with a couple of folk today on Twitter, and they were sort of sticking up for him. I had noticed, and they were sort of sticking up for him, and he's only played 440 minutes of football, and I was like, right, that's fine, right, I get that. I'm in no way saying that John Lundstram's Rangers career's over and we need to get rid of him, but I've not seen any signs at all really from him that he's improving, that he's getting better. I think his body language is really poor at times. Even when he scored his goal last Friday, just the way he celebrated it was a bit off for me. And that last night, you could argue both bookings were silly. I thought you could argue the first one, he's taken one for the team, and that it's a professional foul, and that's what sometimes you have to do in a game. But when you've done that in a game, you don't do it 10 minutes later and get yourself sent off. And I thought it was interesting that when he was walking off, Gerrard didn't even look in his direction.
There was two guys there I mentioned in terms of Wright and Bassey, and you see the levels of performance that they've had to put in either to earn the starting place or be trusted to be a game changer when they come on. Lundstram has been basically shoehorned straight into that team as a starter, and he just hasn't made the most of it. And whether it was shock treatment to the guys that were already in the squad and already in the team, that here's a guy who's played English Premier League stuff, he's in to put it about and into brought into this squad to make a contribution, whether it's to get a bit more out of the guys that are actually there. I'm not quite sure. But there must be some of the guys who are sitting saying, if I get a chance, this guy could be on the bench for the rest of the season. And I found that fans are fickle. They really are fickle. And 1 week a guy will be a hero and a legend. The next week they're trying to get shot of them. When you start hearing Rangers fans after how many minutes, 400 and something minutes of football, when you start hearing people asking, "Is this guy the new Joey Barton?" Then that for me rings big alarm bells for what it would do if the player heard it himself. But also, I would even say for those that brought him in terms of the coaching staff, in terms of the manager, who obviously think he's a player, he needs to really start to perform at a totally different level. He needs to move up a couple of notches in terms of what he contributes to the team.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, as I said earlier on, I'm not for one saying, we need to get rid of this guy, but he has to be given us something. He has to be given signs that he's getting fitter or, improving his performance levels. And I'm just not seeing it at the moment. And like you, it's a bit of a worry, because it feels to me at the moment, of all the business that we've done through the summer, we've not really got the benefit of any of them yet. none of them have really contributed meaningfully so far. So yeah, a bit of a worry. Also a bit of a worry was Ryan Kent, Stewart. Another really sort of misfiring performance. Now, he's a player that has those performances in him. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, if anyone thinks that Ryan Kent's putting in 9 out of 10 performances or 10 out of 10 every week, then I think they're kidding themselves on. That's the type of player he is. But I have to say, his sort of performances against Malmo and that last night were particularly bad. You know, you normally always get something out of him, but you know, it's last night it was a case of sort of wild shots over the bar, you know, poor distribution, going in daft runs and losing possession. And I mean, I think Steven Gerrard's quite loyal to you know, Ryan Kent. It was interesting that he never came out in the second half. And I noticed today in the press conference when Ryan Kent's name was mentioned, you know, the manager, I thought Steven Gerrard was a bit, not grumpy, but you could tell he wasn't in the best of moods today at his press conference. You know, he was a bit short with a couple of his answers and a couple of the journalists that were there. And when Ryan Kent's name was mentioned, I think you could tell he's not happy with him at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he is the manager's biggest signing, or biggest, you know, or so the biggest signing on the books just now at Ibrox. So therefore, you're looking for something from him. However, without repeating myself, which I'm about to do, and I've said it, you know, over a number of weeks, Ryan Kent is a winger. Wingers, by their very nature, blow hot and cold. If they were red hot every single time, you know, the Jack Grealish transfer fee would have been spent years ago. They don't play that way, and you know, and without sounding like this is your granddad speaking to you, you know, people wax lyrically about Davy Cooper. But Davy Cooper, I can remember having absolutely torrid days, torrid nights, where he was getting hauled off, and then again he wouldn't start. And everybody goes, "Oh, remember the 1981 Scottish Cup final against Dundee United? They tore it to shreds." That season in particular, Davy Cooper was up and down like a yo-yo. So I'd always give Ryan Kent the benefit of the doubt for one big reason: he never goes missing. He is always there. He's always picking up the ball, even for fans to shout and tell him how bad he is. He will not hide, disappear, run on the other flank, or run away from the ball sort of type thing to give himself 10 minutes apiece. He will always go looking for it. And to that extent, I always think, you know, as I say, I give him the benefit of the doubt, but he just wasn't firing last night. I don't know whether he took the knock that he took. I think he seemed to go lame during the half. He tried to run it off and it wasn't happening for him. Now, again, Steven Gerrard might not be happy for a number of reasons, but you know, as I mentioned before, it's not as if Ryan Kent is your only match winner. I think that Wright is it really has to be under consideration now, especially if Kent doesn't play this weekend. I think that Craig Wright has to be the guy that's looking to start.
Well, that's how I was going to come on to Scott Wright next. And
sorry, Scott.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
I was like, I'm looking at the screen here, and somebody called Craig just messaged me. And I'm like, "Aye, Craig, aye."
No, I thought you said Craig White. I was like, well, that's the end of this show, isn't
it? The point I'm making is that he has really performed well and with very limited time on the pitch. And if he gets a start and is basically wound up with the manager and told, "This is what I want you to do, go and do it," he could be a match winner for Rangers in the first half of games, rather than, you know, having to wait to the second half before you tie a match up. It could be another sort of Dunfermline-like performance where you're 2 or 3 or 4 up by half time. And I think that's what Rangers, Rangers are needing those kind of performances, or a run of those kind of performances, just to get the confidence levels back up.
Yeah, I mean, right, he's already scored. You know, I mean, the goal against Livingston was an absolute peach. He got the goal last week against Dunfermline. I kind of feel for him. I really do. I think when I look at other players who are getting game time and the level of performance that they're putting in, you know, and what Scott Wright's putting in, and yet more times than not, when match day comes, he's starting on the bench. And I felt last night he was the guy that put impetus into Rangers. When he came on the pitch, I actually thought it was him that got Morelos going. I thought Morelos was a bit sluggish in the first half. But the way Scott Wright was chasing the ball down, running at them, making things happen, all of a sudden you seen Morelos sort of kick into the game. And I genuinely do. I mean, I would love to see him get a start at least on Sunday and see what he can do, because I think he's well overdue it. And moving on a wee bit, sure, another two. I mean, you mentioned Bassey earlier on. Another player who I thought gave a really mature performance last night and who's developed a lot since he's been here is Hagi. I thought he was absolutely outstanding last night. Arguably man of the match. The way he put himself about. I mean, we all know he's very good. I mean, I'm only half joking here. I'm not entirely sure what foot he shoots with. He's that two-footed. You're not entirely. He can go on the left. He can go on the right. It doesn't really matter. But he's added a sort of grittiness and a determination to his game. And I mean, some of the challenges he was, riding last night, it's shown that he's really, his upper body strength has really improved. And I think playing in Scotland, he's become more accustomed to the more physical sort of aspect of the game.
Yeah, I would agree. Another thing is, I think everybody upped their game in the second half, and if there were some 4 out of 10 performances in the first half, I think most people managed to get plus points for their overall performances during the course of the game, simply because of how much effort they put in the second half. And I also thought that Rangers are lined up and set up a particular way. They've lost a player, and you could see that they were pretty diligent in the formation that they then played and who was covering. It wasn't so much a formation, I think, in the second half. It was who was covering actual areas and zones, and everybody put in a shift last night just to cover, the area or whatever sort of territory they were told to perform or play in, and even down to 10 men, because of the runs that Wright and Morelos and Hagi were making. Rangers were actually playing a very high pressing game against opposition that looked quite comfortable at times on the ball. So that was quite brave as well. And all in all, I think one or two of the Rangers players and Rangers as a team redeemed themselves in the second half. And again, if you keep 11 guys in the pitch, over there, you'd have to think that Rangers have a chance.
Right, before we have a wee look at tomorrow's game, Sunday's game, I need to highlight our partners' football prizes. So this week's prize, it's an Alfredo Morelos signed and custom framed Rangers shirt. I'm looking at it now. It's last season's Castore shirt, all nicely framed with a sort of montage of Alfredo Morelos in there too. So tickets cost £5.95. There's 99 tickets available for this. I'm not sure how many of those 99 are left at the moment. The deadline for this competition is this Tuesday the 24th of August at 7:30 p.m. So get your tickets before that deadline. £5.95 if you want an opportunity even to win that Alfredo Morelos signed shirt. Right, sure. On to Sunday's game. Before we go on to it, there was a wee bit of news broke today, just as I was finishing the agenda off. The Daily Record's running a story that Big Bad Rangers have locked out the Celtic supporters for the game next Sunday. But when you look deeper into it, what's actually happened is Rangers have asked for confirmation that the next game at Celtic Park that Rangers would receive 800 tickets. Celtic couldn't give that guarantee. And so Rangers have went, well, actually, you know what, if you can't guarantee us 800 tickets, we're not prepared to let 800 tickets go at the moment. So it seems to me that the way that the story was framed initially was a bit naughty, to say the least. And, can you blame Rangers for this? If I can imagine the Rangers supporters' reaction if we handed over 800 tickets to them and then come the game in December, I think it is, Celtic to say, well, by the way, we're not giving you any tickets. So I don't think Rangers have much of a choice here, actually.
I might disagree with you there. I think that Rangers could be in a position where they actually take the the moral high ground and say, right, okay, here are 800 tickets, and then wait and see what happens. And if they don't get 800 tickets back, then you know what's going to happen in the future. I think there's an opportunity for Rangers to basically say, yeah, listen, we don't care how many in to the stadium. We're happy to go with it, and I believe that we can still win the game, regardless if you've got no fans or 5,000 fans. Doesn't really matter. And I think on this occasion, I would actually think that it's a Rangers have almost preempted happening here and now. So I would have gone with actually giving Celtic the tickets and then put the pressure on them to reciprocate that come.
We're going to have to disagree, Stuart, because I don't think Celtic would have reciprocated. We're talking about a club that's not given any away allocation so far this season to any club.
Either you agree with me or you'll be sitting here speaking to yourself.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's it. You know.
Okay.
I was actually thinking, since it's just us every Friday, we should just show.
That's it. You know what I mean? So I'm just calling in my lawyer just now. Get a contract signed.
Just branch out ourselves. I mean, since no one else will work with me. Right, on to Stevie G's.
And I can see why.
Right, on to the press conference today, Gerrard. Now, he mentioned a couple of things. He spoke about the new signing. He's not going to feature on Sunday, Juninho Bacuna. He's still apparently not up to fitness levels that are required. So the coaching team and the fitness team are going to be working with him. An interesting squad update. The Ryan Jack thing is honestly, it's daytime I watch these press conferences when Ryan Jack. Yeah, he's progressing well. A couple of weeks away since last November. You know what I mean? So I'm not having a pop at Steven Gerrard here. Obviously, it's an ongoing situation, but it does kind of feel like whenever he speaks about Ryan Jack, you've heard it before. And Sakala's got an injury as well at the moment. He's got a wee groin injury, so he won't feature on Sunday. So in terms of team selection, as we've just sort of alluded to there, a few sort of poor performances by some of the bigger players in the team. And it wasn't just last night, to be honest. I think Tav, Goldson, Barisic, Ken, a few of our big players from last season haven't really hit the heights so far this season, and they look a wee bit off it. So does that give, Gerrard a decision to make on Sunday in terms of his starting 11? Like say Tav, for instance, I think you could say that Patterson, if he's not quite up there with Tav, he's not a hell of a far off it. It's two players of sort of equal level. And we've seen Bassey coming in on the other side at left back and doing a really good job. And Barisic has struggled this season. And Bassey's come in, and as you say, they might take a bit of shifting now. So also other players like Ken and Stephen Wright coming in. So is it an opportunity for the guys that have been sort of chapping at the door for a while and not getting a huge amount of game time to come in and make a statement?
I think that I have wondered a couple of times whether there is the kind of synergy that was there with Tavernier and Goldson last season, whether that has slightly waned this time around, because I'm not sure whether there's a lack of trust between the two of them. Whereas last season they seem to put all their woes and all their mistakes to one side, there's been a bit of kind of nervousness between the two of them. I do wonder if you took Tavernier out of the team for one game, whether Goldson's performance would actually be lifted. I wasn't quite sure what kind of how well or indifferently played last night. I think it was a bit of kind of malaise right through the entire team. But I do think it may, Rangers have got a squad. You have a squad for reasons. One of the reasons being that you're able to mix and match for different games. Doesn't mean to say that you experiment against Ross County, because I think it'll make it particularly tough, just by the nature of their manager and the likes. But I do think that again, one or two guys on the fringes might make a difference if they just get the chance. And again, I wonder if Tavernier just need taking out, sitting down, sitting on the bench for a game. The problem that Rangers have got, even though you've got two guys that can play right back, are very accomplished right backs like Tavernier and Patterson, you cannot play the two of them in the same team. Not with the format that Rangers, or the formation that Rangers plays. It's not like the days when, for a time, Walter Smith, for instance, was strictly 4-4-2.
Yeah.
And you could adopt or play the two guys on the right-hand side. You cannot do that with those two guys. So you have to play one or the other. You if you did it in any other way, you'd lose that sort of front three or attacking three midfielders. You'd lose one of them, and I don't see that being a practical move for Steven Gerrard. So again, I think Patterson has done enough over a good part of this year, never mind the start of this season, to warrant a start. And I don't think anybody would really be too upset or bat an eyelid if that was the case against Ross County.
See, the thing is, it's funny because, Tav is getting a wee bit of criticism at the moment, and, you'd have to say it's justified. I don't mind players getting criticised as long as it's constructive and not abusive. If you're talking about players not performing at the required level, I think that's fine. And I don't think Tav is performing at that level, but it was him that got the assist last night, and that's what you get from him. You know what I mean? You get assists and goals, and even when he's not playing well, he's always liable to do something. But I think Ross County do present an opportunity to bring some of the fringe players in. And speaking of Ross County, I was doing a wee bit of research on them today, and played 2 games, 1-1, drawn 1, no goals scored. They've had 10 shots in the 2 games. None of them have been on target. So you would have to say, Ross County, for day one, one of the favourites to go down. So, I know it's away from home, and it'll be good to see an away support in there tomorrow. On Sunday, there's going to be a travelling support. That's the first time in Christ knows how long there's been a decent travelling support going with the team. So hopefully that helps. But I'm not saying it'll be an easy game, but given where Ross County are at the moment, and given their manager, and his ability to stand on Brian Laudrup's head every now and again, and send racist tweets, I think it would be nice to stick it up him as well.
I think Ross County this season know or probably have felt that without Hamilton Accies being there, they're going to have to start the trench warfare rather a wee bit sooner than maybe they wanted. And you're right, I think there's 2 or 3 teams there that you would say are relegation candidates, them being one of them. So what the game's going to be like, and because of that, and because I think they'll make it difficult for any team that goes there. You're looking for a performance where you take 3 points. I don't think many folk would be too dispirited if it was a 1-0 or a 2-1 or a 2-0 win against Ross County. I think what you're looking to do is get job done, like Rangers did so many times last season, and then move on to the next game where you actually know the opposition might come or might take you on by playing a bit of football. I cannot see Ross County being, going out and playing like Brazil 1970. I don't think that's their nature or their manager's nature. I think it could be a real, turgid affair. But it's one that Rangers need to, again, their big game players or their players collectively have to perform at the highest level possible. Maybe not the easiest place to go, but it doesn't matter if you're playing there or Panbin or playing at Pittodrie or Celtic Park, wherever it is. You need to be on your A game, and that will need to be the case this weekend to take all 3 points.
Ross County was actually, I think I've said this before on the show, it was the first football ground I was ever in. I stayed in the Highlands for a period of my childhood, and they were an old Highland League then. They were practically like a junior team, you know what I mean? So it's good to see how they've come on. But I must admit, when they appointed your man now, Christ, I'm having a brain freeze. What's his name?
I know what the what's his name? The Mackay.
Him. I was disappointed in that.
Craig Mackay.
Craig Mackay. That's him. And on that note, that's all we've got time for on the Armstrong and Weir show. Looking at the time, I was under strict orders to keep it at about half an hour tonight, so I'll try and do that, Stuart. So a big thanks to Stuart for his contribution there. Great stuff as always. We'll obviously have a show on Sunday night. I'm led to believe that Ross is hosting. John McCallum's on with him, and we've got a debutante in Gary Valentine. We've got a newbie. I've heard he's a bit of a John Lundstram in terms of the pod world, so we'll see what he's got on Sunday, I suppose. But in the meantime, between now and then, get yourself onto the Gersnet website at www.gersnet.co.uk. Until the next time, guys, bye for now.